You'll have to excuse the camera. I don't have my thing with me. Me and Sean are currently hopping from hotels to Airbnbs because the house is flooded. So that's being repaired. Woo! So yes, I don't have my phone thing stand. So wobbly videos, here we come. I wanted to log because I have my first counselling session tomorrow, and I wanted to log like what brought me to that point of pushing me to do the counselling and kind of everything surrounding that. So let's start at the beginning. I feel like it started maybe, how long have we been in hotels now? Maybe 2 weeks. So it's probably maybe like, I want to say like 3 weeks ago. About 3 weeks ago, yeah. And so basically I got a gig booked in, and it was like 2.5 weeks till the gig, and I thought that's more than enough time to create a routine and sort costumes, and it was, but I spent 3 days after the booking crying on the floor in an absolute tears each day, like getting up and trying to create a routine, to the point where that it forced me into a state of just do you know what I mean? And I think on day 3 of that, it was just like I just surrendered after that, and I was just like, I'm not getting this done. There's blocks there. And on that day 3 of me having this like self-incapacitation, that was my breaking point. It was my breaking point of, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I've been here before. It wasn't as intense as that previously, but each time it's happened, it's been more and more intense. And that was the last time I want to experience that. I can't give a fuck. Like, I can't be asked feeling that level of incapability in myself again. So I booked my therapy finally, and it's a style of therapy. I wanted to talk about it and log it, why I thought this style of therapy is probably the most powerful. And I say that with the understanding that you can't teach a baby how to run, kind of thing. So this style of therapy isn't going to be the style of therapy that I would personally recommend for somebody that's just kind of realizing that their whole life pretty much has been like a trauma trigger, or anyone that's kind of never delved into like self-conscious work before, or healing in any form. Like, it's a deep level of therapy. So it's called something called parts work, and there's a very specific particular process that I want to do called the completion process, which is trained through a practitioner called Teal Swan. And there's only one woman that's actually based in the UK that is like trained and qualified in this style of therapy. So before I explain what style of therapy it is, I'm going to kind of just explain kind of what went on with me. So the day 3 happened, and again, it was like the worst of the worst, and I was just in this state of, I can't fucking do it. And I've said, do you know when you see those videos of like cats near water, and they're like, yeah, and they're like, doesn't matter which part of them you put near water, the body like physically repels going near it. It was like that. It was like every time I went to sit down on the floor to create this routine, my body just like extended my leg and took a step out of the space that I was meant to be sat in to do the routine. Or I'd end up being on the toilet with my toilet habits, which I'll like go into, I will go into it specifically, but the details of why that comes around. Like, for an extremely long period of time where it's excruciating pain the entire time, and because of that following, and then in a state of complete exhaustion and therefore still unable to carry out something physically, and then mentally it'd be like, it's kind of like someone's like this, and you can't quite fully like see or gather your thoughts. Like, it's like there's so much thick fog between your thoughts and you, like, grasping the thought to project it out and follow through the thought and complete the thought physically. It's just like this whole level of incapacitation on every form. And I have recognised now that it's when I am trying to do something, like I have all of these desires that I want to learn piano again, I want to learn violin again, I want to paint more, I want to dance more and create routines more, I want to create costumes and sew more, and all of these amazing things that, you know, I have a lot of passion for. And yet, when it comes to actually doing these things, as much as I want to do them, there's something inside me, which I understand as a part of me. There's something inside me that just triggers these, like, I was gonna say bodily functions. It's the opposite of that. It unhinges the functions of my body and my brain, and purposefully incapacitates me to be able to just carry out these things that I actually want to do. And I've noticed even more so, that when there's a time limit on it, which is kind of what I've experienced, which is why I'm doing this video and why I've ended up like booking therapy. So when there's like a time pressure on it and I have to do it, absolutely not. Absolutely fucking not. Just straight up, no, we're not doing it. And that's like this part inside me that's saying like, no, we're not doing it. So there's a video that I did, my first session doing parts work with myself, trying to navigate that practice myself. And I'd say it went all right, given the fact that I'm not trained in that modality. I'm not trained in that technique. And I uncovered some stuff, and it came to light, which I was not expecting, because I don't really feel scared of rejection at face value. However, when I was delving into this subconscious part of me, at the time I was speaking to my digestive system, wanting to understand why it was, you know, constantly kind of, I don't want to say getting in the way, but feeling like it's actually helping me by stopping me from doing stuff. What I uncovered was, or what came to light, was there's a fear inside of me, somewhere subconsciously, that is fearful of rejection. And this fear began in the womb. And I'll talk a bit more about that in a different video, but going off that essence, it makes sense when I'm joining the dots together, because if I can't physically do something, if I can't physically create, if I can't, you know, make a routine or make something out of sewing or learn a skill or whatever it is, if I can't do those things, and I can't get rejected for not doing them. Do you know what I mean? Simple psychology. However, when it gets to a point where it's impacting so much of my life, like to the point where it's impacting my partner as well, like when I'm feeling incapable and incompetent and just unable, he's not feeling right. He feels like shit because he can't do anything to help me, and then that impacts his entire flow of whatever he's doing with his life. And I think it was that this time, it was a huge part of that, and it was a huge part of me really wanting to do something and just obviously not finding the time to get around to it. And finally this opportunity comes around, right, this is my kick up the arse, I need to do it now, so that's it, I'm just going to do it. And I couldn't, I physically couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. My brain shut down. So that was it. It was like after 3 days of really fucking trying, and it just wasn't happening. I was like, right, I'm booking therapy, I'm looking for the practitioner. And it worked out so well because she does payment plans, so it's affordable. I mean, it's just, if you're going to want to do something, you'll find a way to do it. And that's so hard. It's such a fucking hard pill to swallow, that, because I don't think that I would have done this even just a month or so ago, because my mentality around my finances was, or a couple of months ago, was I can't because I don't have. Whereas now it was like, I want to because I need to, and I have to, and I will find a way. So yeah, so my therapy that I'm starting tomorrow, I'm very excited about, and I wanted to log it. So the style of therapy is, there's going to be a lot of stuff to do with parts work. And parts work is essentially working with subconscious parts of yourself. It's a very strong form of shadow work. If you've probably heard the term shadow work before, if you're not aware of this, shadow work literally means subconscious work. Like, the shadow is the subconscious. So this is a very, very deep, strong shadow work practice with a practitioner, and it essentially allows you to tap into subconscious parts of yourself that are creating conflict. Now, the idea of it isn't to like figure out why that's being against you and like get rid of it. The idea is to understand it and integrate it into like the whole of you, so that therefore no longer is any more conflict internally. And a really interesting part about it is that if you understand like stress cycles and you understand the nervous system, you've probably heard of things like fight or flight. There are two, I think the stress responses they're called, but there's two more of those called freeze and fawn, as in like a little baby fawn, I think it is. And it's like, oh, surrender and do anything, just kind of not to, get eaten and get in trouble, whatever. So you'll find things like people pleasing in that response a lot. Anyway, we're going kind of off point a little bit. So the idea is that whenever you've experienced a stress response at any point in your life, whether it's as far back as in the womb, if you haven't completed that stress response, meaning you've felt the trigger, that's fine. We're not trying to get rid of the trigger. We're not trying to get rid of the fact that you've responded to the trigger, because we need those for very important reasons like survival. What we want to do is learn how to complete the stress cycle and regulate the emotions following being triggered and following being activated, to bring ourselves back to a state of like safety or neutralization, or whatever you want to call it, however you want to visualize it in your head. The idea is to not be stuck in the activation constantly. And these subconscious parts, any of these kind of conflicts, my understanding of it is that there's so many subconscious splits, called fragments, so many subconscious splits that are stuck in these stress cycles, in these activated stress cycles. And when you do parts work, essentially what you're doing is going back in time mentally to these scenarios, and speaking to these parts of yourself, and trying to understand like where it got stuck, what age it was it got stuck, talking through it to integrate its needs and its wants back into alignment with where you are now, and help it understand that it's no longer stuck back there in that time, in that experience, and that you understand that it's scared of XYZ, and you want to help it achieve whatever the fuck it is that it wants to achieve, but through a way of unison with how you're going on in your life. So yes, I'm very excited. I wanted to log it. I did want to do a really long video, however my arm is starting to ache. So I think this one's good to just kind of have as a marker that I will be starting this tomorrow. I want to know how I feel. That's a good point. I nearly forgot. I want to know that in the midst of this past few weeks, it's been like the things that I've been noticing, like that low energy, the low frequency of just shut down. I feel like if I'm able to understand the part of me that's like pushing me into that zone, believing that it's actually protecting me from whatever it's fearful of, if I'm able to kind of bring that forward and integrate that with what I'm doing and what I want to do in life and all these desires and all of these goals, then I'll be able to be at least operate in a state that is clear enough to then start adding additional shit on top of it. So there's things that I've been looking into about wanting to really learn about manifestation, and like gratitude practices and all of these things. And I know I've done a lot of these things before, but again, they were surface and they were temporary because I haven't tackled the root cause. And I feel like I'm at this junction, is that right? Maybe not a junction, because I don't think it's going to go one of two ways. I feel like I'm at the starting line of, okay, this very thing that I always tell people to tackle the root cause, I'm actually doing that now. This is the very first step of me doing that. I say this, yet all the things that I've been learning and all of the like self-education I've been absorbing has led me to the point of understanding which particular method I wanted to use and why I wanted to use that method and why it's actually right for me at this time. But I do believe that this is some of like the deepest work that anyone could do if they're in a position to be able to delve into this. It's like, it is the running of the race, if that makes sense. So it's like, I know you can't run before you can walk, but I feel like I've kind of learned how to crawl and walk and jog a little bit, and I'm like, right, I'm ready, like I can run. So if anyone's at a position where they feel like they've done a lot of self-healing already, where they've delved into the understanding of what it all means, where they've delved into things like gratification, where they've delved into positive mindset thinking, where they're doing like exercise a lot, where they're eating well, and I say eating well as in like where they've really researched nutrition and they're not kind of following things like fads like protein bars and protein shakes and you know, still eating like chocolate spreads and stuff on something, or still eating like oats and things, like, do you know, like not actually really delving into the science of nutrition. I feel like this is for people that are at that point where, you know, they've built up enough muscle now to be able to take this on, and I'm there, and I'm very excited to be sharing the journey, and this is the first step of that. So yay me for me. I'm very, very happy about it, and I'm excited to see how it unfolds.